first time in my life, I promise I'll be brief. Just kidding. For all of you with cell phones, please set those on stun. Just want to say a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to give a little shout out to my mother, who, if you were not sure about this, if you opened this door, it wouldn't be here. This would be a grassy knoll on the top of the hill. When she heard that they were going to demolish the depot, she immediately got on the phone. I think Senator Tom Harker was the first person she called, and somehow she weaseled out of an administrative assistant the phone number to the head of Burlington Northern. And when she, who was the head of Burlington Northern, answered the phone, she said, "How'd you get this number?" So anyway, she was persistent enough to get this done. This was about a 7-year process for the restoration itself. And I again just want to point out that if you look skyward towards the heavens, a little woman down at the bottom of the hill by the name of Cheryl Racine was on a scaffolding for about 5 summers and winters with a putty knife and a heat gun scraping off all the old layers of paint around here. Her husband actually was the one who discovered, while scraping the paint off the windows, that we actually had stained glass in here. Rumor had it that those windows were painted over during World War II as part of the blackout process. So, is that your damn phone? I'm about to slap you. Good Lord, Father. Anyway, Cliff Racine also salvaged enough lumber out of the building to recreate the kitchen in here. And if you look at the old picture on the south wall, you'll see they did a wonderful job in recreating the old lunch counter that was here. So a lot of work went into this, obviously, a lot of volunteer hours. Cliff and Cheryl, like I said, George and Pat Mayer, of course my father, my mother, me to a little extent. But no, just a lot of effort went into this. And certainly we recognize the fact that most of the troops from Company M and Company F left from this location. So that's why it's a World War II museum. As you also probably already know, we lost more men per capita than any other city and county in the country. So, and the Red Oak Victory Ship, too much story here, the Red Oak Victory Ship was actually in honor of a number of troops we lost during World War II. And as you can see, the 34th Infantry Division was in combat for 517 days from February 1941 through November of 1945. In fact, Company M and Company F were one of the very first engagements in World War II. Fortunately, it didn't end up very well with the ambush at Kasserine Pass. Too much history, too much of me talking, and I'm going to shut up at this point, but you're going to hear from me for the next 30 minutes anyway, so get used to it. First of all, I'd like you all to stand for the presentation of the colors by the Scouts ESA Troop 86. Special thanks to you all, and we're ready for you anytime you're ready.
Audience attention, color guard attention. Color guard, forward march.
Thank you.
Color guard, prepare to present the colors. Present the colors. All in uniform salute, all others right hand over heart, and please remove all non-scouting headgear. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Audience headings, color headings.
Thank you so much. I should mention that the Red Oak flag is a replica of the original Red Oak flag. If you'd like to know more about the history of that flag, our research person, Randall Wilson, has put together a nice little booklet on it. It's sitting on the table over here by the main door if you are interested in finding out more about the Red Oak flag. It is my distinct pleasure at this time to welcome the Honorable Mayor of Red Oak, Shawnna Silvius. What do you mean? You're not feeling honorable?
I'm fine.
Okay. She had to get her cheaters out, just like the ones that hang around my neck. Mayor Silvius.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. What a fantastic turnout. This is exciting to see all of you here. Appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday to join us. First of all, congratulations to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Restored Depot here in Red Oak. What an amazing amenity this is. It's one of our very valued assets in the community. As we feel, we celebrate our history in our military, our arts, our culture, and we just really are thankful for all of the volunteers that it has taken to restore this magnificent property, but also for all of those that dedicate so many hours, not only serving to get it restored, but also just day to day. And I want to take a moment to thank all of those that have been involved. And so I know Jolene and Steve Adams, as well as Lynn Adams and Pete Crawford.
Right here.
Pete and Jolene, there you are. I believe Carol Spar, Sherry Hewer.
Higher.
Thank you. Are you
Take it away, Sherry.
here? I just want to recognize everyone. Thank you. Ann Iverson.
Not here.
Okay. Tom Iverson. Gloria Jensen. And Lee Ward. There you go. Got it. Honorary board is Cheryl Racine and Cliff Racine. Advisory committee is Lynn Adams. Maggie McCowan. There you are, back there. Roy Marshall. Bo Bowie. Thank you, Bo. Randall Wilson. And then the staff, these are the folks that are volunteers that work here on a day-to-day basis. Lynn has put in countless hours, as well as Jolene, Carol Spar, David Simonson, Swanson, and Lee Ward.
He's
And
been
then, of
called
course,
worse.
what's that?
I said he's been called worse. So.
And then in memorandum, obviously, of Jackie Adams and also Pat Mayer. So I know there's many countless volunteers, again, many hours, so thank you to everyone. It is my distinct pleasure to do something very special today that I don't believe he's aware of. So Mr. Lynn Adams, from the office of the mayor, we would like to give you a proclamation in your memory and honor today. So whereas the city of Red Oak takes great pride in its rich history and cultural heritage, and whereas the Red Oak Depot stands as a symbol of the city's past, present, and future, whereas Lynn Adams and Jackie have demonstrated exceptional dedication and tenacity in preserving and revitalizing the Red Oak Depot, whereas on this momentous occasion, we celebrate the 120th anniversary of the depot and the 20th anniversary of its rededication after being saved from demolition by the unwavering efforts of Lynn and Jackie Adams. Whereas Lynn Adams, even in the face of challenges, continued to care for the depot with love, passion, and commitment. And whereas the city of Red Oak recognizes the years of relentless hard work undertaken by Lynn to ensure the preservation and continued existence of this historical landmark. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the city of Red Oak, Montgomery County, Iowa, officially declares December 10th as Lynn Adams Day. And that, sir, is in honor of your extraordinary dedication to the city of Red Oak Depot and this invaluable contribution to the preservation of our city's heritage. So therefore, I hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Red Oak on December 4th. I did that, and I'm glad you didn't hear about it. So I have a copy for the depot, as well as a copy for him to frame. So without further ado, again, just thank you for taking time. Thank you for the supporters and sponsors, people that use this wonderful facility for events, for keeping our history alive, and for the countless people that it takes to continue the volunteerism that's needed to keep structures like this viable and keep our history alive. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple other people I want to recognize here while we've got a minute we've got two city council people here. Brian Bills, wave Brian. Tim Friedhoff, wave Tim. God, they take instructions so well. Next thing I want to do here is recognize all the vets in attendance. So if you're a veteran of any conflict, war, or otherwise, would you please stand? This is going to be like Catholic church. And having recognized the veterans, I want to take a moment to recognize the oldest living World War II vet in Montgomery County, Al Hay. I had a wonderful conversation with Al about 2 weeks ago, and there are stories to tell here, folks, and I think he'd be happy to let you in on them, but he doesn't brag much. At least that's what his son told me, so I'm not sure that I got out before landings in World War II to scout out the islands. So you can kind of imagine what a dangerous job that was, and we certainly need to appreciate and recognize that. This is perfect. My God, we're at the depot, there's a train. Actually, I called Burlington Northern earlier, told them to make sure to bring a train by in the middle of the presentation. They paid attention to me. I still have that number my mom gave me. No, I'm just kidding. It's a coal train going the other way, just so you know. Anyway, Al, we appreciate your service. We thank God you're in good health, and it's an honor to have you here. So thank you. And again, he's got lots of stories to tell. He'll be cornering, I'm sure he'll tell you a few. So back to the cheaters here. It's also my pleasure to introduce our featured and keynote speaker today, Evonne Williams. Bo and I have somewhat of a history here. I won't tell too many tales out of school, but Bo was actually my crew boss when we were detasseling for DeKalb in the late 60s.
How many people detassel corn? Raise your hand. Too many.
One of your original crew is right here, Mr. David Swanson.
David there.
Yeah, how many did it with you?
Cold and cobwebs in the morning, 150 degrees in the afternoon. Trivia question for my dear friends Nancy and Barb. Where did all the DeKalb crews meet for lunch? To have your sack lunch? Essex City Park. Very good.
Essex City Park. Anyway, Bo would come by and the horn would honk early in the morning, and then we would, taking our lives in our own hands, actually get in the car that Bo was driving. Bo passing semis on Highway 2 is the stuff that nightmares are made out of. Another little piece of trivia about Bo, and he was surprised I even remembered this, but Bo was formerly the president of the Midwest chapter of the Andy Griffith Fan Club.
In fact, we lived on Mayberry.
Somewhere out there, there was actually a videotape. I think it was KETV that did the story. One of the Omaha stations. Anyway, it was really, really good. He was surprised that I remembered that, however.
You're the only one who ever had.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Anyway, more about their family. Bill and Evonne Williams, through their nonprofit, Patriotic Productions, has organized 13 Nebraska and Iowa honor flights, taking 3,500 veterans to D.C. to see their memorials. They were also the creators of the Remembering Our Fallen memorials, which are photos, by the way, of the fallen soldiers from Iraq and Afghanistan. These two national memorials travel the entire country, containing photos of 5,500 of the fallen from the War on Terror. Their speaker series, which I did not know about until Bo and I talked a couple weeks ago, has included people from the Band of Brothers, Marines from the flag raising unit on Iwo Jima, the kissing couple, which was a fascinating story, from Times Square on VJ Day in 1945, a number of Medal of Honor recipients, the doctor who saved Reagan from his assassination attempt, Lee Greenwood, and most recently, former University of Kentucky swimmer Riley Gaines. Next Memorial Day weekend will be their 4th Patriotic Parade in downtown Omaha, which draws about 10,000 people. Their mission here, and has been for quite some time, is to honor the Gold Star families, our troops, to promote patriotism, and remind people of the importance of Decoration Day, which is now Memorial Day. Please join me, if you don't mind, in welcoming Bo Williams to the Red Oak Depot.
Well, hi everybody. I am so pleased to be here to help celebrate the 120th anniversary of this beautiful historic building. But our other mission today is to honor Red Oak's own, the beloved Lynn Adams. And it's Lynn Adams Day. Isn't that amazing? Very good. So, I have come bearing a gift, an unwise man with a gift for each of you. I tried to think of some keepsake to remember this day. So I thought, what would be perfect for this, for the winter time, this time of year, is a fan.
Oh my God.
So if you boys, scouts, Girl Scouts would come over here, I've got 100, so everybody's going to get one. Would you help hand these out so everybody gets one? Here, Lynn. More, I have more. So my advice is put this on the end table next to your lazy boy, maybe next to your TV guide, and so this will be readily available for those hot winter nights. But yeah, we're pleased with the way it came out, so I hope you like it. What we're going to do before we honor Mr. Adams is we are going to show you something. We are all familiar with the 1944 Pulitzer Prize winning photo by Buddy Bunker of the Omaha World Herald of Bob Moore returning to the Villisca Depot. But how many of you have seen the home movie from that photo, that photo came from? Have you seen the movie? I saw it when it first came out, I don't know how many years ago, when it was first made public. But thanks to both movies, we're going to be able to take a look at it. Here's Jolene. Jolene, you want to set the table on some other information you've got on the photo? There's one fan.
After today, they're $5 a piece.
Okay, the photo was the 1944 Pulitzer Prize winning photo. This one is brand new. We just put it up yesterday. I'm very excited about it because it actually shows the sleeping bag, which the old one did not. And there's a little story behind the sleeping bag. Bob Moore Jr. was born, he says, 9 months after this photo. And this is Bob Moore. His uniform is right here. That's his daughter, his wife, and this is his nephew. His name was Leighton Croxdale. And if you have time afterwards and you come over here, there's some, this is all Bob Moore, and this is his nephew who has passed away now, but there's some storyline there, which is very good. So, when this picture, was taken, of course, and we're gonna get into that with this, they thought it was a staged picture. And this movie is going to prove that it was not a staged picture. Bob Moore Jr. lives in Richmond, Virginia. He had planned on being here. I talked with him and invited him. He planned on being here. But he has some health issues and the flying right now that he wasn't able to come. But he did send me some comments on this. And this one part I really want to share with you. He said, I hope this will be of interest to you. I would like to add a brief story about the homecoming. And that's what this story is. And we sell these books down here. I think this is the last of them. It's At War at Home is what the name of it is. It was put out by the Omaha World Herald quite a number of years ago. And the last story in the book is the homecoming. And that's why that photo is on the cover of this book. So he says, the homecoming photo that received the 1944 Pulitzer Prize. I was honored to have given a speech at the Depot World War II commemoration. The picture, and that was back when they first dedicated it. He was the one who gave the speech.
He was our keynote at the 100th anniversary.
Yes. The picture is a comment to the soldiers and sailors that served. The story is not complete without my thoughts on the rest of the story. While Dad was fighting in North Africa, his mother, Jessie, and my mom were running the family business. Dad's brother, Bill, was fighting with the 1st Marine Division in the Pacific. He was seriously wounded in the invasion. I felt that the story behind the photograph might not be complete without additional understanding as to the magnitude of the life-changing contribution by every family during the war. And with it, and I'm going to lay this over on that table if you'd like to, he sent copies of a couple articles that were in the newspaper. One's an obituary, I think, of his dad, and the other is a story about his grandparents. So he said one's a story about his great-grandfather. So there's the photo, and we're so pleased to have the new one, and we just love everyone to enjoy it. It's the first thing you see when you walk in this room, and it's just an amazing photo. So I'll lay this over there for anybody that might want to read the articles that he sent.
Excellent, thanks, Jolene. All right, running time on this is about 6 minutes. You're going to see this on my 1962 screen. At home, I have the slide projector with the carousel with 82 slides in it. We have 11 grandchildren, 11 and under. I forced them at Christmas time, because nobody else would do it, so I forced them to watch. Most of them are black and white slides of people they have no idea who they are. But I'm pretty smart about it, because then I pass around the power, which is pushing the button, right? And so each one gets to push. So anyway, we're going to watch this on the 62 screen, and hopefully everybody can see it.
This joyous hug, frozen by the camera of Omaha World Herald photographer Buddy Bunker, became one of the iconic photographs of World War II. Bob Moore's embrace of his daughter Nancy at a train station in Villisca, Iowa, expressed the fondest hopes of a nation whose fathers, sons, and husbands were overseas fighting the war. Now, 65 years later, a silent home movie of Moore's return from the war has surfaced in a wooden crate in a home in the Seattle area. Watch that joyous reunion. As the movie continues, we'll see scenes of Moore and his family at their home and in downtown Villisca later on the day of the homecoming. This movie was shot by Eva Croxdale, the sister of Moore's wife Dorothy, who was in the homecoming photo and in several scenes of the movie. Eva was the mother of Mike Croxdale, the 2-year-old boy at the corner of Bunker's photo, and in the opening scenes of the film. When Eva Croxdale moved out of her home in Villisca in 1971, Mike got an old rifle case filled with her 8mm home movies and moved it to Iowa City, where he was doing his medical residency. When Mike died in the 1990s in New Mexico, his son Leighton, who now lives in Federal Way, Washington, got the box of home movies. Finally this summer, 65 years after his grandmother shot the movie, Leighton bought an 8mm movie projector on eBay and started watching the old movies. In these closing scenes, we also see Bob Moore's brother Bill, a Navy medic who served with the Marines in Guadalcanal and was injured on Peleliu Island. When Leighton Croxdale threaded his film into the projector in August, the opening scenes meant nothing to him, but he recognized the homecoming hug immediately. As we watch the excitement of that homecoming scene again, let's focus on Bob Moore, one of the early national heroes in the fighting in North Africa. Moore was the commander of Villisca's Company F in the Iowa National Guard. His troops were surrounded by Germans on a mountaintop in Tunisia, and Moore led them to safety in a daring nighttime march through enemy lines. He eventually became a brigadier general in the Iowa National Guard. He died in 1993, 2 years after presiding at Red Oak's send-off for local Guard troops serving in the Persian Gulf War. You can read the full story of Moore's war service, his homecoming, and the rest of his life in a 1997 Omaha World Herald story republished today at Gazette Online. Moore's daughter Nancy grew up to be the mother of 3 children and lived in the Kansas City area. She became disabled by multiple sclerosis and died in an automobile accident in 1984. Mike Croxdale, the little boy in the photo and the movie, went to medical school at the University of Iowa and became an Army doctor, serving in the Vietnam War. This photograph by Cynthia Johnson ran on the cover of Discover magazine in the 1980s, showing Mike Croxdale overcome with emotion as he visited the Vietnam Memorial. Eva Croxdale's home movie shows Buddy Bunker at the right side of the movie frame, hustling to get his historic photo. World Herald reporter Harold Cowan is the second man shown with a camera. Bunker won the Pulitzer Prize for his photo. He died of a heart attack in 1975. Historians are delighted with the discovery of this movie. This is the reaction of Jackie Adams of the Montgomery County Historical Society.
You know, this is the great American story.
Uh-huh.
It really is. This is the great American story.
Photographs and video like the return of Major Moore are important because they tell a broader story, a story that members of one generation have, held or members of one generation have remembered, but have not passed down to the next generation. They may have known about Major Moore in the return to Villisca, but we don't have any images. This generation of today is a generation of young people who want to see images, they want to see video, they want to see it in a broader context than that one moment in time, that one photograph in time.
This isn't a story just about this Iowa family from 65 years ago. This photo and this movie capture the timeless joy of families today when a father or mother returns from war, and the hope of families with loved ones overseas fighting in wars. It's also a story about the treasures we have stored away in closets, attics, and basements, waiting to be discovered someday so they can help us feel that joy and love of family all over again.
If you think about it, every town in every state in those post-war years were made up of men like Bob Moore. It would be the downtown businessmen, right? The guy who ran the Five and Dime, or the man who ran the hardware store. The banker, the lawyer. How about the man who pulled up in front of your house in his panel truck to fix your black and white Philco television set? Walking up the sidewalk with his case full of tubes as big as a horse's leg. He would be dressed in a matching gray shirt, gray trousers. How did we know he was a World War II veteran? Sleeves are rolled up. There was the anchor tattoo from his service during the war in the Navy. So, sad to say, most of them are gone, but we do have one right here, Alvin Hayes. And Al was on our first Nebraska World War II flight on May 21st of '08. And the short version of that is, being from Red Oak, I didn't think it was fair to tell Iowa guys they couldn't go on the Nebraska honor flight. So Evonne and I drew a line from Council Bluffs to Atlantic down to Hamburg, picked out a couple dozen guys, and took them on that first flight. Also on board was Homer Foote, Barb's dad, and Dr. Ron Mills. So the funny part of it is, after that first Nebraska flight, the old saying, "no good deed goes unpunished," was running through my head because our phone rang off the hook from all over the state. Can I go on your next flight, or would you take my dad on your next flight? Well, where's he live? Dubuque? Oh, gee. So fortunately, Jeff and Bill Ballinger from Council Bluffs called me and they said, "we want to do a fundraiser for you." I said, "I have a better idea." And so they stepped up to do the Iowa flights. I went with them on their first flight in September of '08, and after that they were off and running. They started doing flights out of Des Moines. Casey's and Hy-Vee got in big, which was terrific for him. And they ended up taking, we took 3,500, they took over 4,000. A lot of guys from Montgomery County that I don't know exactly who got to go. But at any rate, we're just, we think about those World War II guys, and they're all gone now, but I just wanted you to see that, and I appreciate that, Bo, for putting it together. I just had a thought. I got to tell you this story. Being in this depot reminds me, this is off topic. My brother Dan and I, when we were in junior high, I graduated in '69, Dan in '70. So junior high was, whatever, 63 to 65, whatever. So this is how different the world is now versus then. We would, and a couple of buddies, so 4 of us, we'd go down to the Continental Trailways bus station. You remember what that was, Artie? We'd buy bus tickets to Omaha, get off downtown Omaha, spend the day walking around, going through Brandeis, lunch at Bishop's Cafeteria. One time, we took a city bus out to Crossroads, which was an adventure. So by mid-afternoon, we would make our way back to the Burlington station and buy train tickets on a passenger train that would stop. I can't remember where else it stopped, but it stopped here. That's all we wanted to know. We'd get off the train. We'd go dig our bikes out of the weeds, bushes, pedal home, walk in the house, and Mom would say, "Well, what did you boys do today?" "Oh, Mom, we just went to Omaha." "Well, I hope you had a good time." Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know about that. Lynn Adams, let's have some fun. Okay. We all owe you and Jackie a tremendous thank you for what you did to save us, particularly in comparison to what happened with the North Platte Canteen. North Platte Canteen was known all over the country as the town that greeted troop trains, eastbound, westbound, daytime, nighttime, constantly, trains coming through and stopping at that depot. Servicemen, all branches, flood into because the word had spread, they flooded into the depot. Here was farm fresh milk, coffee, sandwiches, cookies, cakes, pies. All these women who were mothering them for 10 minutes music. I mean, it was fabulous. Bob Green wrote a book called Once Upon a Town. You ever pick that up? It's a great read about the North Platte Canteen. Okay, in the early 70s, a bunch of citizens, townfolk, were working to save the depot. 1973, November, Union Pacific, essentially, swooped in the middle of the night with a wrecking ball and flattened it. And I'll tell you what, our first, like I said, our first 7 honor flights were World War II guys. So we probably took 24 or more just from North Platte. And I remember talking to those guys, asking about the North Platte Canteen. And it was a sensitive subject, because it would have turned into a beautiful museum, as big as it was, etc. But that didn't happen here because of the 2 of you. And so we all owe you a tremendous amount of gratitude for what you did. I finished this wonderful book a couple of days ago, and my favorite chapter is the last one about the restoration of the depot. And I had no idea what work it took. I mean, there's a part in there, apparently in the basement was a coal boiler. This man dismantles it himself and lugs piece by piece up the stairs and out. I mean, the work that went in to make this happen is just extraordinary. So that's why we're here to honor you, and we're thrilled that it's Lynn Adams Day. Everybody, please pick up a copy of this. This is a fun read. I don't think Bud's here, is he? Did Bud come?
Yeah, didn't make it.
Didn't make it. The other part of this book that I like is they bought all these houses in town, and there's pictures in here of the homes that they bought and flipped, and it's unbelievable. I don't know how you found enough hours in the day to do all the things that you did in that chapter about all the houses.
He had Jack and I as free labor.
Were you involved in that somehow?
Some of it.
But anyway, make sure you get a copy, because it's really a fun read. I even marked it. When you get into your career as an educator, there's a list in here of all the plays, or as many plays as you can remember. Arsenic and Old Lace, just on and on. Taming of the Shrew, The Mouse That Roared. My brother John graduated in '67. He was one of your thespians, and he was the lead in The Mouse That Roared. I remember being there for several editions of it. So what we're going to do here is Deanna Viner. Who's Deanna Viner? Right here? Oh, now this woman has got a couple of things to say. She was in his first class, correct? Class of 56.
Yes,
Deanna Viner.
I wrote some things down so I say it right. He is an amazing person, I will say that, and fun. Yes, I'm Deanna Viner. I was in the first play that Lynn Adams directed 67 years ago on November 20th, 1956. The name of the play was Arsenic and Old Lace. It enjoyed a long Broadway run, playing to standing room only audiences. The play includes finding 13 bodies in the home of 2 old maids. They were residents of a fashionable section of Brooklyn, and I brought their recipe. For a gallon of elderberry wine, add 1 teaspoon of arsenic, 1/2 teaspoon of strychnine, and then a pinch of cyanide. And I have to present to you the original program with a list of everybody. And this was my, book with all the lines. Yeah, it's still good. And I'll leave you my recipe, so you have them.
Bless you, child.
Thank you.
Okay. We have, well, first I want to recognize a couple of guys here. We have two of our Nebraska Vietnam Combat Honor Flight guys who went, that was June 6th of 2007. No, couldn't have been. 17.
6.
What's that say, Stan?
What's that say?
Operation Airlift, that's right. June 6th, 16. So 3 planes, 510 all-combat guys. So Barney and Clay Michaels, I call him Clay Michaels. Clayton Stoll, class of 66, was supposed to be here, but he didn't make it. So what we're going to do now, Stanley in the book has a wonderful testimonial to Mr. Adams, and Stanley's going to talk about his jester's career.
When I was in high school, I graduated in 1966, and we had a wonderful category of teacher, Adams. Now, I was always kind of a renegade, and I still am. But I wasn't the brightest bulb on the strand either, and I've had a little trouble in school. But Mr. Adams, he encouraged me, and I stuck with it. And was in a couple of plays, and had a lot of good times. I had a pass for first period every morning from Mr. Adams. Well, I think I went to his classroom once. And then the rest of the time, I'd slip down through the old building, down into the alley, and made my way to Moore's Donut Shop. I'd have coffee and a donut, and then I'd come back to school. And that was a lot of fun. Our jesters' meetings were a lot of fun. One time we had a picnic over at Viking Lake. And I was looking for a car, and Mr. Adams told me once, he says, you know, if you get one of those little sports cars, you're going to get a lot of girls. So I bought this little Triumph TR3, it swooped down doors. It was kind of a rust bucket. I pulled up to the stop sign there by Lafloo's candy store. Sure enough, one of the most popular girls hopped in the seat next to me. So he was right. I always followed his advice. Another time he told me, he said, you know, the NRA's giving away M1s. You need to get on that list. Well, unfortunately, I didn't. Anyhow, I was in a couple of plays. I wasn't a great actor or anything, but one time we did a play called You Can't Take It With You. And he convinced me to wear blackface because the character I was playing was a black guy. So I didn't know much about, theater, but I put on the blackface and, and I did my best Amos and Andy accent. Ooh, yeah, Kingfisher. And we had a little gal that was my girlfriend, and she wore Reba. Yeah. But I know that there are many, many, many people that had you for a teacher, and they're better for it. So thank you.
Who else? Anybody else have an observation about Mr. Adams?
I want the recipe.
Clayton Stoll was supposed to be here, as I said. We call him Clay Michaels. A lot of you knew him from his morning drive time when they were the top-rated radio show in Omaha. Mason and Michaels in the morning on the mighty 1290 coil. A lot of people don't know this about Clay, but he is the recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. And he's emceed a lot of things for us over the years. 3 years ago or so, we brought in Gary Lewis and the Playboys, and then the year after that, we had Gary Puckett and the Union Gap. But I just want to tell you a quick story about Gary Lewis. So I asked Gary Lewis, what was it like the first time you were on the Ed Sullivan Show? And Gary said, I'm 1964. He said, I'm 19 years old. I'm standing behind the curtain. He says, I'm terrified. Terrified. I mean, think about it. There's 3 networks, right? And on a Sunday night in 1964, the majority of them were on to Ed Sullivan. And so he said the curtain opens and that red light's on. Now he's going to lip sync This Diamond Ring, so it wasn't, you know, I mean, he was hoping he could make it through lip syncing it. But he did. But he said, I'm looking at that red light and I know that it's north, south, east, and west, the whole country, and he's standing there. It's just really interesting to hear him tell the story. Anybody else got an observation, any comments about Mr. Adams? Jolene, you're on.
I can always say something. And before I do, after the program, when you're visiting, there's a lovely lady right here who was in Lynn's class, and she has a ton of stories. She just doesn't want to stand up and give them, but she has a ton of stories. And we have Shirley back here, whose husband was the grandson of Bessie Billings, who ran the kitchen. And she's got a lot of stories that she's heard, and she would love to share those with you. So they're bashful, but you know, travel and have a little visit and learn some things you didn't know about this building. Mr. Adams. I was a freshman in high school when they required speech. And I had just come to Red Oak in 7th grade when they started closing all, you know, like I went to country school. Best education in the whole world, and I'm so glad I had it. I had 3 in my class. And I came to Red Oak in 7th grade to 188. So a little bit of culture shock. Not terrible, but it was a little bit of culture shock. So I get to be a freshman, and you'd have to take speech, and I have hardly talked to anybody in my class who did not say, I hated speech, because we were all petrified, we didn't want to stand up in front of our peers, and so I never really got to know this man, because I hated that class. So you bring it around to the depot, and I would run into him once in a while, because I rented it for class reunions. And then one day, I came down here for a meeting that Steve had called for people who were interested in doing something, and I came to volunteer for 2 hours a day, 1 day a week. And that lasted about a nanosecond. And then Pat Mayer, his sister, got me involved, and I ended up, doing this. Now it's like, between here and home and whatever, it can be 25, 30 hours a week. But this man has taught me, I knew very little about World War II when I started here. I didn't even know we fought in North Africa. It's not something they taught us, and I had no reason to know that. So he taught me so much about World War II. He taught me about the radio, about the railroad, and he taught me about this building. So in my 4 years with him, there's a lot I know that I didn't know before, and I am thankful to him for that. And that book, it's a great book. I was lucky enough to sit with him for hours and hours and listen, and I only got part of it written down, and I tried to do my best. I'd write as fast as I could. Then I'd go back and I'd go over it with him, and then I would give it to Bud Barnett, who had lived and added pictures, and it's a great book. It's a really great book. So I love this man, he knows that. I tell him that, and he said, you can't say that because Pete's here. But he's a great man, and he has taught me a lot. We fight sometimes. Oh, wait.
I was just thinking about the Music Man. I know it was part of the vocal music department. my understanding is you had a lot to do with instructing the actors and production of it. But that was in '66, and the two leads were Phil Pratt and Diane K. Bergren. And I was just talking to Margaret McQuown, and she was in that production as one of the, she and Sharon Sapp were the Shin sisters, if you know the music man. And Margaret, you were only in 8th grade, right, for that role? It was a wonderful production. It was on a Thursday night and a Friday night, and it was sold out, and they added a Saturday night edition because there's so much
And I
demand.
still know my line. Tommy Gilas did it.
Tommy Gilas did it.
God.
And there was this 10-year-old boy filling the Ronnie Howard role of Winthrop, Steve Adams. Tell us about that.
Amaryllis. It was a lot of fun. It was one of those early plays. I will have to tell you that when it came time to put a child in a play, somehow, miraculously, my brother and I got involved, not by choice on a lot of occasions, but Babes in Toyland, The King and I, we were on stage a lot as child actors. But no, it was a wonderful experience. I got to meet the love of my life, Callie Casey. If you remember the Casey family, had a huge crush on her. Everybody put their name backstage when you were in a play, if you've ever been in the old middle school. Somewhere buried under probably 30 or 40 coats of paint, my name is there. But no, we had a wonderful time. Mr. Chrysler took the music side of it. Dad took the acting side of it. And the Wells Fargo wagon went coming down the street.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
A lot of fun.
Thanks.
You bet.
All right, before we conclude with happy birthday, because his birthday, I understand, is next Wednesday, 92nd. And so I think we should give him the opportunity, if he so wishes, to make a comment or two. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lynn Adams. Look at this.
You get up and talk.
You got anything to say?
Anything to say?
Speech teacher.
First of all, the Racines, they should be here. They did so much work, 7 years worth of work here. We had volunteers that would come in 3 hours to begin with, 3 hours every other Saturday. The Racines did more work in one day than they did in a month. And they never got their just due. A lot of people go up and say, well, thank you for what you did. Well, they did more. There were basically 3 of us did the work, and then my wife was in the office, and we used to complain, Mrs. Racine and I did, she doesn't do anything. Well, after years have gone by, and I got her notebook where all of her phone calls, 70 pages filled up, both sides of the page, phone calls to everywhere. To Fort Worth, Texas, the president, she kept calling the district office in Lincoln, and the secretary says, well, I shouldn't do this, but call this number, but don't tell them where you got it. So she dials it up, and they don't say hello, they just said, how did you get this number? And it's the president of Burlington Northern in Fort Worth, Texas. And she was a woman. When the 2 women got to talking, things started to happen. We'd been working several weeks, several months to get something done, nothing happened. She called Harkins in Washington, D.C. I have to admit that she was a Democrat. I never was. But anyway, she was a Democrat, and she had a lot of Democratic friends. She had contacts with the casinos in Council Bluffs. They brought in $10,000 just because of this association. But she pulled in all these people that she had done favors for, and then little by little it happened. But it's amazing that a little group of wild people like us got this big building completed. And we had nothing to back us up. We had to depend on the city, by the way. They wouldn't help us The county wouldn't help us, but we had to have some recognized entity to channel the money through, and the city did that for us. One of the interesting things is later, Mayor Johnson, he would take his bows for saving the depot, and Mrs. Adams would shoo him a new one because you had nothing to do with it. But it was an interesting, long experience. But the Racines did so much work, and then he finished the work and he just walked away. And I always wanted him to be the honored people during some of the parades we had, but they never got around to that. But volunteers all the way. The woodwork in here, everywhere, Cheryl Racine did that. She spent all winter up here on the ceiling. And she'd call me and said, I got another section finished, we moved the scaffolding, over and moved the scaffolding, and she worked on another one. Amazing people, amazing.
How long did it take her to do all that?
All this is painted. Everything was painted.
How long did it take her to finish it?
Yeah, how long?
All winter, all one winter. I mean, it was, in the early days, we were working, you know, like 7 days a week, and I'd go back in the evening. They'd still come back after their supper and work on things. Well, they'd come back, like we had to take all the bricks on the south side, pick them up, and bring them in, so they could put the new water line or sewer line in. And then we found that the bricks on the south side of the building had been eaten up with acid rain, so we took those off, and Cheryl and I scraped the mortar off. But I'd leave and there'd be a stack of bricks. I'd come back the next morning and it'd be stacked twice that high. She's out there working. And Cliff, of course, I come in one day and he was working on the floor. He had 11 tools around the floor. He could do everything. His daughter will say, my dad can do anything, right. There was no wall behind where Bo was standing now. That had been taken out. The Burlington had made an extra room there from that door to that door. There, by the way, there was no door on the south side. There was just 2 pieces of plywood there. Cliff replaced that paneling beneath that window where it was behind a steam radiator, and it had deteriorated. He fabricated that. You can't tell that's from original. He did the same thing over here. There was a hole in this room on the floor about 4 by foot. He replaced that. He did so much, and I didn't have to. They'd bring me a bill and say, "This is what I spent." No, they never handed me a bill. They had to took care of themselves. It was just amazing what they did, and. Then they walked away, and you know they should have been paraded around the city. You see what a great job they still have done with the library down there and the added parking and so forth. But over the years, we've had a lot of good people come in here and help us, and we appreciate that. Want to keep it going. And I often said we don't have a mountain here, we don't have a lake, we don't have an ocean. But we do have a nice city with some beautiful houses and places like this. If my wife had lived long enough, she would have been trying to fix every damn old building in town. But we were able to save some of the downtown area. But anyway, this is our pride and joy. Thank you for being here.
Most of us wonder if we look back on our lives, did we do anything to make a difference? This man doesn't have that problem. Let's all sing happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lynn. Happy birthday to you.
Gotta give her 10 minutes, so I'll try to stretch this out as much as possible. I'm just kidding. I do, though, there were a lot of people that, of course, made this particular event happen. So if you see anybody with one of these things, it's not for any other reason than to identify who the volunteers and docents and the people that put in a lot of time up here. If you've got extra time and you would like to come up and help us up here, we would certainly accept more volunteers. And we run this place off of donations, folks. I hate to say that, but we don't get anything other than donations and party rental. If you are having an event, whether it's a board retreat or something like that, or a party recognizing your employees or something, please consider using this venue. It's a wonderful place to meet, and we do appreciate it. I do want to point out, and we just had our annual board meeting this last week, we've got some really interesting programs, I think, lined up for 2024. We are also in the process of working with the Red Oak Victory Ship Museum out in Richmond, California, about setting up a kind of a sister museum program. And we'll be trying to feature a lot more of the Red Oak Victory in their story. And they, in turn, are going to talk about things that are happening here at the World War II Museum. In fact, I just got an email from them that said, I wish we lived closer. We all would have been there today. So we're looking forward to that. And a coming attraction, Joe and Kelly are looking at possibly doing a play here in the fall. So be aware of that, and I hope you, if you're available to attend. He says it's really interesting, but I've known Joe a long time, and I know better than to trust anything this guy says. So anyway, we hope you take advantage of this space, and you're winking at me. Jolene came on board about 4.5 years ago. Dad and I joked. Dad calls her the Dragon Lady, by the way. It is, it's a compliment. Well, Dad and I joke, it's kind of BJ and AJ around here. It's before Jolene and after Jolene, which has nothing to do with the second coming of Christ, but you know, some days I wonder. Anyway, she's done so much up here since she came on as a volunteer. And I thought, you know, oh, she's gonna come up one day a week and work a couple hours, you know, and now I think it's kind of turned into an addiction with her. There's a 12-step program for that somewhere. Anyway, Jolene has done so much, and I would more than appreciate all the work that she's put in. And she's winking at me, which means she might have one more thing, just one more thing to say.
That's what I usually say to her, one more thing. Well, it's not an addiction, it's a passion. But actually, I didn't come up to say that.
Oh, okay.
Shirley wants to say some things.
Oh, I'd love to.
And Jim Hicks wants to say some things. And I just want you to know that.
Shirley, would you like to, ladies first, Shirley.
Okay, I'll just do it from here. It's going to be short and sweet. I was so excited when I heard that we were going to have this anniversary, and I said, well, it was Levon, my husband's grandma, that ran the depot lunch. And that's all I ever heard was about grandma running that. And she worked, she would have a cab pick her up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Remember, we had cab service. We don't have that nowadays. And bring her up here, and she'd start fixing her pot roast, and she was known for it. I don't know how she did it, she cooked it on top of the stove. Long and slow. She got here, she could get it started. And then the teachers from Jefferson School would come over here to eat. And then when the train would stop, like it tells in this one book I bought today, that one train didn't have a dining car. And so then they would let them off the train long enough to eat. But Grandma's favorite saying, according to the family, was always when they come in, I'll fix you up something. So I don't know if she let them choose what they were going to eat, or if she just fixed up the plate. But they also had ice cream and all those things. And that was her life, was to run the depot lunch here. And then I was digging deep last night, and I was surprised to learn that the Hotel Johnson the family that ran it was also, it said that it was run by the Paynes, P-A-Y-N-E, and it said in this information that I found that it owned the depot lunch. Well, if that was the case, then Grandma was just working for him. But the Paynes were also, trains came in, he had transportation to get him down to his hotel. Because it says that it was a premier hotel, because we had 3 hotels in Red Oak. And so he was learning how to take care of his business. So that's about the only thing I have to tell you. And it's great to be here today and realize that Evonne's grandma was the one that was here all those years.
We'll fix you up something, Shirley.
Jim, your turn.
Well, we were talking ahead of time. I'll get my thoughts together. Bo, you're an excellent MC. Holy cow.
Jimmy Hicks, class of '69.
My name's Jim Hicks. Yeah, I graduated in '66. Stan the man, stick around.
Hey, don't worry.
Okay, tell Lady hi. Graduated here in '66, went to Simpson, went to Drake Law. Just this June, completed 50 years practicing law. Still going in every day. And anyway, when I found out Jolene got involved in this, Jolene Turner, if you know who I'm talking about, Jolene Crawford, found out she got involved, because I still get the Express. I went back, my mom saved everything. So I dug up Dad's war diary, and got it up there a little bit, and he's got an entry in there, left for World War II, right here. And I can't remember what the date is. But anyway, went over in bomber group over in England. He was in Rome and Paris. Came back, started hardware business, or worked in the hardware business. Ended up 3 blocks away from the depot. That's where we lived on South Hill. So just think of that. I saw that, I said, I'm gonna send that to Jolene, maybe she can use it. Left here, hadn't been farther away from home than Lincoln, Nebraska, and goes out there. One of his entries in there, by the way, he talks about all the German subs on the East Coast, that the press, you think the press would keep that quiet now, but anyway, and so lived on the South Hill, coming to school, kindergarten, across there was Jefferson Old and Jefferson New. Jefferson Old was the typical 2-story fire trap. Jefferson New looks like it's still there, I think. And anyway, Mom said, you stay on the sidewalk, because these railroads, this is a big deal. She said, you stay on the sidewalk, cross that bridge, be careful, come down, and you go right to school, and you beware of those gandy dancers. Anybody know what a gandy dancer is? Well, I didn't, and so so they must have left me alone. I made it. And the other thing about in first grade, Mrs. Lusk made us ride the train. And I think we paid 15 cents or 25 cents. We marched up and went all the way to Villisca. And I don't recall coming back, so we must have had lunch over there, and the parents were there. But Mrs. Lusk, I think, because Eisenhower was doing the interstate, highway, so maybe this passenger train stuff might wane. Obviously, it was alive when Bo was still around. Anyway, so the depot and the railroad were very important to anybody that was on South Hill. And one other story. The Billings, Dad told me later, the Billings were the rental. When I'd come up here with Dad to do repair work, he was hardware business, I was scared to death. This place was full of busyness. There were strangers. The Billings scared me to death. I thought they were from American Gothic picture. And Dad said, oh, he said, they're great people. And they ran tight ship there. They had the best candy bars. Forever Yours. It's the only place you can get those. It's kind of a Snickers on steroids. But we had coolers here. So David Hammer and I were on the school safety patrol. And that was for the wise school people entrusted the safety of your kids to the 5th and 6th grade. We didn't control the traffic, but we wore belts and we tell the kids to go and don't push, we'll report you. So we were down there, we wanted to get corners 2 and 3, which were down here, because you could see the trains, see the depot. We were hungry one day, and I don't know if David or I came up, and we got a Forever Yours. He came, I think David did, don't think, but he came back, we split it, and it was just part of the depot, just part of our lives. And I often thought if the captain of the safety patrol had found about that, or the lieutenant, we'd be in big trouble. Well, I was a captain, David was a lieutenant. But I'll tell you what, the depot and the trains, they were just part of our culture on South Hill. And so when Jolene tied the War Museum and this together, I mean, it's beautiful what's happened here. So keep this history alive, because people are changing history and rewriting and tearing it down and everything else. So keep this first-hand history going. So,
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, a shout out to your dad. I bought an old Queen Anne Victorian house, and a lot of the millwork was missing, and I'd take him up pieces of what was left, and your father would recreate it like it was brand new. I mean, the guy was an artist. I mean, an absolute artist. I still have a red oak clock, by the way, your dad gave me many, many years ago, hanging on my wall. So yes, we want to recognize that in the history here, certainly. Again, folks, just as just kind of a send-off here, how many people had dad as a teacher? If you could raise your hand.
Well, I graduated.
Well, you count. Amazing. Everywhere I go, it seems like even in and around Iowa, when they found out what my name is, they said, "Hey, Dad, your dad is a teacher." And I was like, Jiminy Cricket was right. It's a very small world. So. Jolene, have I babbled on long enough? Anyway, we've got refreshments back here.
Yes.
Please mingle. Please share stories.
I'm
No, you
just
can't. Thanks for asking, though, Margaret.
I'm just curious, how many people in this room ever rode the train from here? Raise your hand. Okay, because every time when they know I'm affiliated with the depot, they say, "Did you ever take the train? Does anyone have a train story besides going to Ballista and First Grade that you want to share?"
I have one quick one. My grandfather on Saturday nights, we'd come and often stay with my grandparents, and we'd come up and have cherry phosphate here in the dining, and then sit out here and wait for the 10 o'clock train, which was never on time. So, but that's my one story. And we did take the train out of here to go to Miami, Florida. So.
Our entire family, my grandpa, my grandma, John and Kate McClown, my mom and dad, Earl and Gretchen McClown, Judd, Laura, Wes and I, we all took the train from here, the Denver Zephyr, for Christmas to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and back. It was a huge family get-together in Pittsburgh at my aunt and uncle's house, and there were 25 of us at their house, but that was one of the best trips ever, was riding the train overnight. We didn't have bunks, we sat in a chair, in a seat that reclined about that far. But, I mean, that's one of the stories that you tell your whole life, is that whole family trip for Christmas from Red Oak to Pittsburgh back to Red Oak.
Thank you, Maggie.
I have one short one.
You have one short one and then followed by another short one, okay?
It's a short one.
Not you, David.
My dad worked on the railroad.
Oh, very nice.
And there was 5 of us children. And we'd come up here and get on a little engine and a caboose, they called it the poodle jumper.
The poodle jumper?
And this is what we did too, all the way to Shenandoah. We rode free because my dad worked on the railroad. My mother warned us, catch that train at 4 o'clock in Shenandoah, you're gonna walk home. Then my brothers liked to get on the train to go to Omaha to my aunt's, just so they could walk in the train while it was going. They just loved walking in the train while it was moving. But I have lots of stories, but that was just one.
Stick around for more, right?
Oh, I have lots of them.
You got a tag on that one?
But I live just right over the hill here, by the fences.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the house. I was born and raised there. And so we made several trips up here to Billings to get ice cream and stuff. So I do remember them. And I wasn't very big, but I remember being out in the backyard and a train going by with the soldiers on it. And I'd stand there and wave, and they'd all stand there and wave.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. reference to the railroad, folks. Red Oak wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the railroad. Everything came in on rail. Lumber, grain, livestock, you name it. Red Oak wouldn't be here if the railroad wasn't here, so.
We used to come up here and lay our ear on the track just to see if we could hear a train coming.
That's how you end up with a flat head.
Probably it.
Oh, you just missed it. You had a story.
For years in Villisca, it was a tradition for the kindergartners, on the last day of school, we rode the train from Villisca to Red Oak. And I would have been in 1965, or that's when it would have been. And we'd bring a sack lunch, go to Chautauqua Park and eat that. And then the bus would take us back to Villisca. And that's quite a memory. Now, I don't know how many years they did that, but for a long time.
Great story. Great story.
I used to ride for like 3 or 4 times during freshman year in high school, take it to Chicago. And this is pre-Amtrak, and actually when Amtrak took over, they stopped stopping here. But it was Burlington Northern's passenger line. I don't know about anybody else, but it was like a school bus on train tracks. And you didn't have, the seating was stiff, you couldn't tilt back or anything. And I was riding with my brother Mark, and we asked for a pillow, and that cost you $0.25. And Mark only had a $20 bill on it, so he gave the guy a $20 bill, he gave him a dirty look, he walked out, he came back about 10 minutes later, and gave my brother $19.50 in quarters. That was just before the end of the line.
Bo, thank you so much. Jump.
Real quick.
It better be, buddy.
Oh, everybody hungry? One time I was in Mr. Adams' class, and I would guess it would be 1973 probably. There was a theater arts class, and I was at my desk, and there were these books right along the wall, and one of them was a book on how you do animation. It had little frames that moved a little bit each time. And I pulled it over, and I was kind of looking at it, and I discovered that if you blink your eyes real fast and went across the page, you could just see it moving. And so I was sitting there doing that, I was just amazed at it, and all of a sudden there was a kind of a shadow right here, and I looked up, and your dad was standing up there just looking at me like what the hell is going on? What's the matter with you? Well, yeah, okay.
I might have the only distinction of being kicked out of my dad's class, 2 different classes on the same day. First period and 7th period. I don't want to tell you what happened when I got home.